Welcome to segment 2 of Citizens Forum, being filmed in the Memorial Arena on July 31st. I'd like to thank our volunteer crew and the Shaw staff that makes it all happen. Our guest in this segment is Saanich Councillor and CRD Director Vic Derman. And Vic, you've been on the, I don't know the official name, but the Sewage Committee for a long time now, from the beginning of this
Certainly
thing.
seems like a long time, Jack. No doubt about that.
Yeah. So we're kind of at a bit of a crossroads now. Maybe you can tell us where we are.
Well, we're in an interesting position. We have attempted to start with the McLaughlin treatment plant as the first major project to be done. To do that, you had to seek rezoning from Esquimalt. Esquimalt indicated that they had a lot of concerns, and the CRD's backup was, well, if Esquimalt doesn't rezone it, we'll approach the province to ask the province to force it through by cabinet order. Well, Esquimalt, to nobody's surprise, I guess, didn't pass the zoning at this time. They haven't completely rejected it. They've left it at kind of reading number 2 out of 4, but they haven't passed it, and the CRD approached the province, and the province essentially said, no, we're not going to intervene. You work this out. So that suggests there's going to have to be some changes made. I think it's an ideal time to pause, reflect, and take a good, long, sober second look at this particular project.
So the project as it now is involves the building of essentially one huge not centrally located plant, but one huge wastewater treatment plant and one sludge treatment plant, right? And both of them will be very big.
Yeah, and Clover Point is we have permission to use as a kind of a water processing plant. This plant, while it's sized to handle the region's, the core areas sewer for now at least, isn't sized to handle particularly severe rain events. So in particularly severe rain events, then you're going to you're going to have to dump some untreated sewage essentially into the water still. And there's permission to do that off Clover Point and also off Macaulay Point. So you're right otherwise. They're talking about a big biosolids facility at Heartland, seems to be the indicated preferred site. The big
now
plant...
that's a sludge treatment plant.
Yeah.
One of them has to be built. And one water treatment plant.
Well, one sewage treatment plant where you carry out secondary treatment, that's McLaughlin Point, and then also the sludge plant, potentially at Heartland, because they haven't found another site.
Now, there's a lot of opposition to this plan, and it seems to possibly be at a stalemate now if the province won't intervene. So you're putting forward a motion to...
About 3 weeks ago, I looked at the situation and said, you know, there's a very good chance that Esquimalt won't pass this. What happens if the province refuses to intervene? So I brought a notice of motion to the CRD board meeting, the last one on July 12th, and essentially it says, hey, actually it says several things. First of all, this is probably not a good project in terms of maximizing the environmental benefit. Secondly, it may not be doing it at the best price possible. Thirdly, it's causing a lot of division within the CRD itself. Directors who are, you know, really entrenched in their positions and in opposition to each other. And finally, it's causing a lot of scorn and disrepute for regional government. And that's really unfortunate. You know, there's a lot of people saying, you know, what the heck are the CRD doing? You know, how can they be so foolish or whatever it might be? We don't need that. You know, that's the last thing we need.
But you've certainly earned it, and I don't include you in that
I don't
group,
dispute you there. I don't disagree with you. So my motion essentially said, look, let's take this opportunity to go back, have a second look, an independent review of a group, you know, hopefully progressive urban planners and others, to look and say, are you really taking the best approach at this? And at the same time, to carry out a second, what is called a request for expressions of interest, which would allow people who have different ideas about how this could be better approached to bring their ideas forward. That will come before the board at the next meeting, which is August 14th. What will happen? I don't know. I'm hopeful.
So just summarize again your notice of motion. It's to do two things. Can you just run through them again?
Sure. The first thing is to take a pause and have an independent review of the project to say, is in fact this the best project you can have? Is this satisfying the original requirements of the province, which were fairly progressive? And then at the same time to run what is called a request for expressions of interest. And you simply put it out there and say, if you think you have better and brighter ideas as to how this might be approached, there are a lot of people who certainly contacted me at various times, then you can submit to us as to how you would do it, giving things like the technology you would use, the design for the whole system, these kinds of things.
So August 14th, there is a chance to take a look at whether what we're doing makes sense, and also to open the road for some better ideas if they're out there. That sounds like a very important date.
There are those opportunities indeed. Now, this is at the CRD board level. I brought it to the CRD board because I was aware of the fact that the core area committee, the actual sewage committee, probably wouldn't meet until at least mid-September. So we'd have this long gap of nothing happening. All that my motion says is it requests the CRD board to recommend to the core area committee that this action be taken. Now, it also says that we should work with the core area committee to get an extension in time from both the province and the federal government, so that we are given the time to make sure that we take this proper look at where an incredible expenditure of public money is going.
What can people who are watching this do to have their voice heard?
Well, a lot of people are already. I would have to say over the last 3 or 4 years, concern is growing amongst the public about certainly specifics like the Viewfield site, the possibility of having to pipe sewage 18 kilometers out to Heartland, or at least the biosolids, to pipe some of them back to McLaughlin to ultimately disposed of. The energy, the total cost, it's a very expensive part of the project, $265 million.
And to me, the ultimate fact seems to be that we may be doing more environmental damage by building this thing than we're currently doing with what we have.
Yeah, that's one of the things I would be asking for in the independent review, to say, look, let's do an analysis of the net environmental gain of this. I mean, we are doing it because we were ordered to do it to improve the environment. Well, I think we should be darn sure that we're accomplishing a very significant improvement for $750 million. So I will be asking that also in a motion to say, hey, let's make sure we get an analysis of exactly how much environmental gain we will get for this cost, taking into account all the energy that's used and so forth. Now, for citizens, there are many ways they can make their voice heard. They can approach the politicians involved. They can write letters to the editor. They can support various groups who have expressed their concerns, I guess, such as Arrest and STAG and others. Simply letting everybody know that they are concerned has a considerable impact.
Let's say I lived in Saanich, or let's say I lived in Langford.
Right.
And I'm watching this and I want to do something. What do I do? Do I phone my city hall? And
phoning your city hall may not be the best way. You can get from the CRD website, you can get the directors who are actually on the core area committee, and you can get the directors who are on the regional board, and sending them an email just expressing your concerns is quite a legitimate way to do it. I get a lot of emails from people.
Good.
In that respect, and most certainly, a number of years ago I was expressing concerns about this project, have been for 6 to 7 years now. In the initial time, there was very little public awareness. And so, other than occasionally a show like this or on the radio station or whatever it might be, I don't think I was having an immediate impact. But I think over time, myself and others have expressed concerns. And more of the public have begun to say, Yeah, we agree. We think this is not necessarily a good project, and we are concerned about the failure to look at cost-benefit analysis, look at the analysis of net environmental gain. Why haven't you guys done those things? You know, we're concerned that you haven't looked broadly at other approaches, because we haven't done that. One example was I brought something called the biosolids debacle, an article I wrote, and I had gone to an independent company with a modern gasifier. We're spending $265 million potentially on the biosolids facility. We are looking at an operating cost of $3 to $4 million a year on top of that. We need sites that are 4 or 5 acres. I went to them and with 100% redundancy, they indicated they thought they could do it for around 60 to 70 million capital.
Just using different technology.
Different technology, with an operating loss of 300 to 400,000 a year, as opposed to 3 or 4 million, and they would need slightly over an acre for site size, which meant, if that's right, you could open up all kinds of sites that wouldn't have the problems of Heartland and Viewfield and others. So, you know, I didn't know that was solid. It was a ballpark figure, but it's certainly something we should have looked at.
And the CRD did not look at it.
No, they didn't. They said that could come at the procurement stage. Well, that's where we are now, and we don't have control. We pass the control over to a commission. They make the determination. Why would you, as a politician, risk $200 million of public money on the hope that the commission would do the right thing? I don't think that's responsible.
And really, it's 780 million.
Yeah,
in
but on the
total.
biosolids alone.
Biosolids alone.
If these figures were accurate, then that's $200 million. That is not chump change. That's huge.
How many people? I hate to not know this, but how many people are on the CRD board?
CRD board's 24 people.
24 people.
Yeah. Now the core area.
You are bringing forward this motion to the full CRD board
Yeah.
of 24 people
Yeah.
on August the 14th.
Yeah. And one of the reasons is the project affects everybody, whether they're actually part of the sewage system or not, because it's such a huge expenditure that will curtail the ability of this region to do certain other things. If you were one who thought we should build LRT, if you spend $750 million on this, 350 or so million of taxpayers' money, it's going to be very hard.
Local taxpayers.
Local
money.
taxpayers, exactly. It's going to be very hard to get them, to pony up again.
Yeah.
For any other project, whether it's.
How do you think the vote will go of the 24? What are you thinking for your motion, which is to again have a second look at what we're doing, and also open up the ability for new ideas to be put forward?
I really just don't know. I'm hopeful that, because I'm not saying stop doing anything, don't treat, or whatever. There's an argument about whether or not that's needed, but I'm looking and saying right now they are committed to treatment. Okay, let's vote to make sure that we do it in the way that is the best way environmentally possible and at the best possible price for local taxpayers.
Okay. So I live in Victoria, and I want to say, I think Victoria has 4 people
Yes, it does.
on the CRD board. I want to say to those 4 people, from my point of view, one person out of many, support Vic Derman's motion. I mean, what he's saying is, let's have a look to see if what we're doing makes sense, and let's also have a look to see if there are some better ideas out there. Saanich also has 5 people, I think, on the CRD board. So you're one. There's 4 more. Phone up if you live in Victoria or Saanich. Phone up your city hall. Find out who's on the CRD, and get in touch with them. Or go to the CRD website, as Vic said, and get in touch.
Absolutely. Public opinion in this is huge. It's huge. I think the more people who say, you need to make sure you are right. Look, if they do the independent review and it comes back and says, what you're doing is the best thing since sliced bread. Okay.
That's great.
Fine. Then, do it. But I have a hunch it might come back and say, there are better ways to do this.
Better and cheaper.
And possibly cheaper. Certainly in life cycle, because we're not doing much in the way of resource recovery.
Under the current plan.
Under the current plan. We're doing some, but not. I don't think anything near what we could, and that affects life cycle costs. Energy costs are doing nothing but going up, all the time. Well, if you can recover more energy over a 20 or 30-year period, that may influence your total project cost. Because you don't just look at the capital cost. You look at what's this going to cost you over, the 30, 40, 50 years that it's going to operate. And energy is unlikely to get cheaper during that time. So we'll see. It's an extremely important decision in this region. I can't think of a bigger decision right now. God, if we're going to spend, this is the biggest expenditure this region's ever seen by a mile. We need to get it right. And we get it right.
I think we can say that we should be thanking the provincial government a little bit for refusing to intervene and telling the CRD to figure this out.
I hope to meet with the provincial ministers responsible and if I can, the Premier in the near future. I will thank them because I think they took the right approach. But also I want to remind them. I want to remind them of what they originally required, at least the predecessor government, when we were ordered to treat. And it said things like maximize dockside green style innovation, maximize your response to climate change, maximize resource recovery, make sure the taxpayers are getting the best deal financially they can, and some other things of their own philosophy, but those ones were the main ones. I don't think we've done that. I really don't. I mean, I wish I could say we had, but I don't think we have. And so I would like to say to the provincial government, tell the CRD that they have to prove to you that those things have been maximized. And
makes sense.
Yeah, it sure does. And I think it would get us into a rather different place than where we're at now.
So here we are, we're on the cusp of a big decision on the sewage treatment issue, which is huge. It's going to happen on August 14th. You can participate by contacting your CRD representatives and your own city councillor if you happen to know any, or provincial, and put pressure on. I mean, that democracy should be that's where it comes from.
And there's another thing, of course, citizens can do. This is an open meeting, and they are free to speak to the CRD board on the issue if they so wish. Now, the CRD has a lot of municipalities, you just show up and, there's the item called and you get up and speak. The CRD...
Nick, we're out of time, so just tell people how to do it and we're gone.
CRD asks you to register it the Friday before, if possible, and then you'd be on the speakers list.
Okay. Thank you very much, Vic Derman, and thank you for watching this segment of Citizens